This week in landscaping, July 7th. The news this week is obviously tragic for Central Texas, and that is what we're going to be talking about quite a bit here. Specifically, the weather, what kind of rain we've gotten, that's happened in Central Texas, how that impacts the lakes, um, an area around Central Texas, specifically Austin, because that matters a lot from a landscaping perspective. But I do not want to take anything away from has how many close calls and then how many tragic moments we had as a community here. Um, so I was actually in on the Llano River on the 4th of July, right in the middle of the flooding zones. This is not the area that had the most tragedy, and everybody in my immediate orbit is completely okay. Um, but it is wild to see the amount of water, the strength of the water, um, and just experiencing it firsthand. So I'm gonna do my best here to show the level of respect needed, while also kind of just talking through what happened and why it should and does matter to us in Austin. So this is a map of the last 7 days and the amount of rain that we've gotten. It is crazy. If you look at this is Austin down here. Um, I'm actually in this area right over here, um, over the weekend. Um, and if you look at the charts of what happens typically in Austin in July, the entire month of July, it averages at about 2 inches of rain. Now, in the last 7 days, we have gotten twice that much rain just in the Austin area. And this looks like a very small amount of rain compared to uh, Lakeway, Leander. Some of the stuff northwest of Leander has gotten 20 plus inches of rain. This is why you're seeing a tremendous amount of road washouts and people put in very precarious or life-threatening situations. There was one spot over here northwest of Mason that got 15 inches of rain overnight in one night. A similar thing happened down in Kerrville. And those are the kinds of things that cause huge surges in river levels, as we can see here. This is the Llano River Bridge. Morning of the July 4th, I actually drove over this bridge this morning. It was flowing at something like 140 cubic feet per second. Within several hours, that same dam was 1,000 times more water was moving through that dam at 120. I think it started getting like 120 something thousand cubic feet per second. Um, and then it decreased after that. This is a video of what it looks like. I don't think you can hear the volume on this thing, but this is down on between Mason and Castell, Texas. The amount of water, this is about 15 feet higher than it normally is. You can imagine how much uh, damage that does to property and threatens to people. And then this is what that river looked like um, later that evening as the sun was going down. Um, if you're not familiar with the river, it's kind of hard to comprehend how much water this is compared to what it normally looks like. But you can tell it's up into the banks and into the trees and stuff like that. And this is actually down quite a bit from its peak. What does that do for Austin? Well, um, Lake Travis, which is northwest side of Austin, what feeds into Lake Austin. It is the dam and Steiner Ranch, Lakeway area. Um, it went from under 640 feet to I think it's at 657. So it jumped 20 feet in a couple of days. We haven't seen it this high in a long time. In fact, it's been around the 640 mark for well over the last year. And so a lot of the water that we use in town, we forget where it comes from. It comes from these lakes, the lower Colorado River network. And so we've got a whole bunch of water. It's hard to comprehend the amount of water this is because this Lake Charles is huge, and so the amount of acre feet that just got in here is incomprehensible to get this much more um, water in the area. This is good for the long-term irrigation and water of the Central Texas region. Um, that's all we'll say about that, I guess. I'll end with just talking about moving past the weather, the rain, and talk a bit about oak trees because it is July and we are now squarely in the zone of tree trimming season, specifically for oaks. We try to avoid trimming oaks in the spring and early summer because it has the highest chance of um, oak wilts being spread. But once you get into the middle of the summer and the dead of winter, it's typically a much safer season to trim oaks and protect your oaks. I love oak trees. I mean, this tree is way older than me and will live till way after I am dead, which is just a wild thought. But when I first saw this oak tree, probably 7 or 8 years ago, it was pretty beat up, had a whole bunch of dead limbs. Um, had a big it's hard to explain, but there was like a branch here that was about this same size but had died and broken off, and so I had a whole bunch of dead wood in here, about 4 or 5 feet around, and was just asking for disease and pests, and so the interaction between humans, us, and this tree has greatly improved the beauty. We raised the canopy on this thing, gave it a lot more um, support, and it has enhanced the health of the tree. So there's a partnership here when done right in landscaping where you can partner with nature and actually help improve the beauty of the landscape and the health of the landscape um, when done in the proper way. And this is the proper time to do that for oak trees. So if you have oak trees that you have responsibility for, this is the time to do that yourself or to have someone else do it. Um, You can usually get, it's usually healthy for the tree to get something done annually, but certainly every 3 to 5 years, you need some pretty significant work done to make sure that these trees are in optimal shape. Um, that's this week in landscaping. Cheers.